Welcome to African Folktales by Timi. Please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more interesting stories. Also share this story to someone who might be interested. Let's get into the story. Timi Olayton had mastered the art of deception. Born and raised in Lagos, he grew up with a sharp mind and a natural charm that could light up any room. Though he started his life as a struggling young man with dreams of making it big, he realized early on that his greatest asset wasn't hard work. It was his ability to manipulate people. Over the years, Timi refined his skills, becoming a chameleon who could fit into any social setting, speak any language of love, and promise the world with a smile. His first major victim, Jennifer, was a hard-working single mother living in Lekki. Jennifer owned a thriving catering business and had spent years building a comfortable life for herself and her young daughter. Though independent and strong-willed, Jennifer often dreamed of having a loving partner to share her life with. Timi met Jennifer at a wedding where she had catered, introducing himself as an oil and gas consultant. From the moment he smiled at her, Jennifer felt a connection she hadn't experienced in years. Timi was attentive, charming, and every bit the gentleman she had hoped for. Over the next few weeks, he courted her with flowers, candlelit dinners, and sweet text messages that brightened her long workdays. He seemed genuinely interested in her life and even bonded with her daughter during their few encounters. Jennifer's friends warned her that Timi seemed too good to be true, but she brushed off their concerns. Not every man is out to break hearts, she told them. Timi is different, and different he seemed. He painted a vivid picture of their future together, marriage, a big house in Banana Island, and even a joint business venture. After 2 months of dating, Timi posed a lucrative business deal. He claimed he was bidding for a government contract to supply oil equipment and needed $5 million to finalize the paperwork. He promised to repay her with interest as soon as the deal went through. Jennifer hesitated, but Timi reassured her with his winning smile and soothing words. "We're building a future together," he said. "This is for us." Trusting him completely, Jennifer transferred the money. Days turned into weeks, and Timi's calls became infrequent. Then one day his number was unreachable. Jennifer's heart sank as reality dawned on her. She tried contacting his friends and even visited the address he had once mentioned, only to discover it was a short-let apartment he had rented for their dates. Jennifer was devastated, not just by the loss of her money, but by the betrayal of trust. She felt humiliated and angry at herself for falling for his lies. But Timi was already planning his next move, leaving Jennifer to pick up the pieces of her shattered world. Timi moved to Abia for his next act, determined to start fresh and continue his con. He had mastered the ability to reinvent himself, presenting a polished version of whatever his target desired. This time he became Timi Adwale, a tech entrepreneur building a groundbreaking software startup. His target was Amaka, a 29-year-old fashion designer with a thriving boutique. Amaka met Timi at an upscale networking event. He stood out immediately, exuding confidence as he discussed the future of technology in Nigeria. When their eyes met across the room, Timi wasted no time in approaching her. He complimented her sense of style and spoke of how he admired women who were driven and independent. His words resonated with Amaka, who had been too busy building her brand to focus on relationships. Over the next few weeks, Timi swept Amaka off her feet. He showed up at her boutique with flowers, complimented her designs, and introduced her to his friends, who were actors he had paid to play roles in his elaborate schemes. One evening, he took her to dinner at a high-end restaurant where he shared stories of his humble beginnings and his dreams of giving back to society once his startup succeeded. Amaka was enchanted. Timi seemed like the perfect blend of ambition and compassion. When he proposed marriage just 3 months after they started dating, she didn't think twice before saying yes. She imagined a future filled with love, partnership, and success. Her friends were skeptical, warning her that Timi was moving too fast, but she brushed off their concerns. "Not everyone needs years to know they've found the one," she said. Shortly after their engagement, Timi began discussing plans for their future. He suggested they buy a house together and claimed to have found the perfect property. The only issue, he explained, was that he needed 3 million to close the deal. Amaka, eager to prove her commitment, transferred the money to him without hesitation. The day after she sent the money, Timi's phone went straight to voicemail. Amaka initially thought he was busy with work, but days turned into weeks with no response. When she visited his apartment, she found it empty. Panic set in as she realized she had been conned. Amaka was devastated. She replayed every moment they had shared, trying to figure out how she had missed the signs. The betrayal stung deeply, but beneath her heartbreak was a simmering rage. She vowed that if she ever crossed paths with Timi again, she wouldn't let him get away so easily. Naomi had always been curious about human behavior. As an investigative journalist based in Lagos, she had built a reputation for uncovering stories others were too afraid to tackle. One evening, while scrolling through social media, she stumbled upon a thread about women being scammed by a charming conman. The similarities in their stories caught her attention. A dashing man who promised love, marriage, and wealth, but vanished after receiving money. Intrigued, Naomi bookmarked the thread and decided to investigate further. The next morning, she combed through her contacts, eventually reaching out to Jennifer, one of the women mentioned in the thread said. Jennifer was hesitant at first, embarrassed to discuss her experience. But Naomi's empathetic approach made her open up. As Jennifer recounted her encounter with Timi, Naomi took detailed notes, sensing there was more to the story. A few days later, Naomi tracked down Amaka, another victim mentioned in the thread. Amaka, still bitter about her loss, was initially dismissive. "Why should I relive that nightmare?" she asked. But Naomi explained her plan. She wanted to expose Timi and warn other women about him. Reluctantly, Amaka agreed to share her story. The parallels between Jennifer's and Amaka's experiences were striking. Both described Timi's charm, his sudden proposals, and the way he made them feel like they were the only women in the world. Most importantly, both had lost significant sums of money. Naomi began to piece together a profile of Timi, a man who was highly calculated, preying on women's emotions and vulnerabilities. Determined to gather more evidence, Naomi spent weeks searching for other victims. She reached out to people who commented on the social media thread and even placed anonymous ads on social media, asking women to share their stories. Slowly, more women came forward. Each story followed a similar pattern. Timi would sweep them off their feet, promise a bright future, and disappear with their money. Naomi created a social media group to connect the women. Jennifer and Amaka were surprised to find others who had fallen for Timi's lies. At first, the group was filled with anger and shame, but as they shared their stories, they began to feel a sense of solidarity. "He made us feel alone," Jennifer said during one chat, "but now I see we're not." The women encouraged one another, and their pain turned into determination. They agreed to work with Naomi to bring Timi down. For the first time, they felt they had the power to fight back against the man who had deceived them. Naomi's investigation took an unexpected turn when she found herself face to face with Timi. It happened at a high-profile networking event in Lagos, one she attended in hopes of gathering more information about his methods. To her surprise, there he was, smiling, confident, and as charming as the stories described. He introduced himself as Timi Adekunle, a successful oil and gas consultant. Naomi's pulse quickened, but she kept her composure. She decided to play along. Timi approached her with his usual flair, exuding confidence as he complimented her outfit. "You have the presence of someone who commands attention," he said smoothly. Naomi smiled, pretending to be flattered, but her mind raced as she thought about the women he had scammed. "And you have the presence of a man who knows what he wants," she replied, matching his energy. He laughed, clearly intrigued. Over the next week, Naomi allowed Timi to court her. He called her daily, sent thoughtful texts, and even delivered flowers to her office. Everything about him seemed calculated to make her feel special. Naomi documented every interaction, saving text messages, voice notes, and even photos he sent. She knew she had to be careful. If he suspected she was onto him, he would vanish. During one of their dates, Timi shared a fabricated story about his upbringing. "I had nothing growing up," he said, his voice heavy with emotion. But I worked hard, and now I want to build a legacy, something my family can be proud of. Naomi nodded, pretending to be captivated. Inside, she marveled at how easily he manipulated emotions. It was no wonder so many women fell for him. Timi didn't waste time. By their fourth date, he brought up a business opportunity that could set them up for life. He explained it with the same confidence he had used on Jennifer and Amaka, weaving a story about government contracts and a time-sensitive investment. Naomi pretended to be interested, asking questions and feigning excitement. "Let me think about it," she said, buying time. That night, Naomi added the details of Timi's latest scam to her growing dossier. She shared her findings with Jennifer, Amaka, and the other women in the social media group. They were amazed at her bravery and grateful for her efforts. "He has no idea what's coming," Jennifer said, her voice filled with determination. Naomi knew it was time to take the next step. She wasn't just gathering evidence, she was setting the stage for his downfall. But she also knew the risks. Timi was a master manipulator, and if he discovered her true intentions, she could become his next victim. Naomi's plan to gather evidence against Timi was progressing steadily. She continued to play her role, meeting him for dates and letting him believe she was falling for his charm. Timi, unaware of her true intentions, became bolder in his lies. He started sharing fabricated stories about his wealth, subtly dropping hints about his need for financial support to secure a lucrative deal. Naomi played along, pretending to be enthusiastic and eager to help. Meanwhile, the social media group Naomi had created grew larger. More women came forward, each with a heartbreaking story of betrayal. From Lagos to Abuja and even Port Harcourt, Timi's reach seemed endless. Each woman contributed evidence, bank transfer receipts, voice notes, and text messages detailing how he had scammed them. The group's conversations evolved from anger to strategy. They were determined to bring him to justice. One evening, Naomi shared an idea with the group. "We need to catch him in the act," she wrote. "If we can gather concrete evidence while he's trying to scam me, we'll have a strong case to present to the authorities." Jennifer was hesitant. "What if he suspects something and disappears again?" she asked. Naomi reassured her. "I'll be careful. He doesn't know I'm onto him." Naomi's resolve was strengthened when she discovered Timi had recently attempted to scam a widow in her late 40s, claiming to be a real estate developer. The widow, who had lost her husband just 2 years earlier, had nearly fallen for his lies until her son intervened. This revelation fueled Naomi's determination. Timi wasn't just a con man, he was a predator exploiting vulnerabilities. To set the trap, Naomi told Timi she was ready to invest in his business. She suggested they meet to finalize the details. Timi, sensing another victory, eagerly agreed. Naomi shared the plan with the group. They would confront him during the meeting, armed with evidence and ready to record everything. It was a risky move, but the women were united in their mission. On the day of the meeting, Naomi arrived at a cafe in Victoria Island, where Timi had suggested they meet. Dressed elegantly, she exuded confidence, masking the nerves bubbling beneath the surface. Hidden nearby were Jennifer, Amaka, and 2 other women, each equipped with their phones to record the encounter. Naomi had also alerted a trusted police officer who agreed to intervene if things escalated. As Timi walked into the cafe flashing his signature smile, Naomi felt a surge of adrenaline. This was the moment they had been preparing for. She welcomed him warmly, ready to play her part and finally turn the tables on the man who had left a trail of heartbreak and destruction. Naomi's heart raced as she saw Timi walk into the cafe, dressed impeccably in a tailored suit. He exuded the same confidence that had fooled so many women before her. But this time he wasn't the predator, he was the prey. Naomi smiled and waved him over, keeping her cool as he approached. Hidden in the background, Jennifer, Amaka, and the other women were ready, their phones set to record. Timi greeted Naomi warmly, his charm on full display. "You look stunning as always," he said, pulling out a chair for her. Naomi laughed, masking her disgust. "Thank you, Timi. I'm really excited about this opportunity you mentioned." He leaned in, lowering his voice as though sharing a secret. "This deal is life-changing, Naomi. With your help, we can secure millions in profit within weeks." He pulled out a folder filled with fake documents, contracts, payment receipts, and business plans. Naomi pretended to be impressed, asking questions to keep him talking. She noticed how effortlessly he lied, weaving a convincing story about government contracts and foreign investors. But Naomi was prepared. Every word he said was being recorded. As they talked, Timi's confidence grew. He leaned back in his chair, clearly pleased with himself. "Once you transfer the money, we'll get started immediately," he said, flashing his signature smile. Naomi nodded, pretending to consider it. "I just have one question," she said, her tone shifting slightly. "What happened to the other women you promised a future?" Timi froze for a moment, his smile faltering. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice cautious. Naomi leaned forward, her eyes locking onto his. "Jennifer, Amaka, and the others, did they get their money back?" Before he could respond, Jennifer, Amaka, and the other women emerged from their hiding spots. Timi's eyes widened as he saw them approach, their phones recording every angle of his reaction. "Surprised to see us, Timi?" Jennifer asked, her voice laced with anger. Amaka added, "We're here to make sure you never hurt another woman again." Timi's charm evaporated. He stammered, trying to come up with an excuse, but the women weren't interested in his lies. Naomi confronted him with the evidence they had gathered: bank statements, text messages, and even recordings of his voice. His face turned pale as the reality of the situation set in. Before Timi could attempt to escape, 2 police officers entered the cafe. Naomi had contacted them earlier, ensuring they would be ready to make an arrest. "Mr. Timi Adekunle," one of the officers said, "you're under arrest for fraud and deception." As the officers handcuffed him, the cafe erupted in whispers. Timi, once the picture of confidence, was now visibly shaken. Naomi stood tall, surrounded by the women he had wronged. For the first time, they felt a sense of justice and victory. The police station was a flurry of activity as the women arrived to formally file their complaints. Timi, handcuffed and subdued, sat in a corner with a defeated look on his face. The man who had once charmed his way into the hearts and wallets of so many women now looked like a shadow of his former self. Naomi and the others felt a mix of relief and vindication as they recounted their stories to the officers. The women provided overwhelming evidence: bank transfer receipts, screenshots of messages, and audio recordings of Timi making promises of love and financial partnerships. Jennifer, Amaka, and Naomi took turns describing how Timi had carefully crafted a persona that made him seem trustworthy and irresistible. Other victims, who couldn't be physically present, submitted sworn statements that corroborated the same pattern of deceit. As the lead investigator listened, his expression grew more serious. "This is one of the most detailed fraud cases I've seen," he said, leafing through the stack of evidence. "We'll ensure he faces the full extent of the law." The women exchanged hopeful glances. For the first time since their ordeals began, it felt like justice was within reach. Timi's lawyer arrived shortly after, a young man who looked equally shocked by the sheer volume of evidence against his client. The lawyer requested bail, but the police denied it, citing the severity of the allegations and the likelihood of Timi fleeing. "This man has multiple aliases and a clear history of deception," the investigator said firmly. "He stays in custody until the trial." Naomi wasn't done yet. She knew that exposing Timi's crimes in court wouldn't be enough. He had spent years destroying lives, and she wanted to ensure his victims' voices were heard beyond the legal system. She contacted her editor and pitched a detailed expose on Timi's scams. Her editor, impressed by the depth of her investigation, agreed to run the story. Back in the social media group, the women discussed how they could support one another during the legal process. Some of them expressed lingering doubts. "What if he finds a way to manipulate the system?" one woman asked. Naomi reassured them, "We've done our part. Now it's up to the law. But we won't stop here. We'll make sure his story is a warning to others." Timi, meanwhile, sat in his cell, stewing in silence. For the first time in years, he wasn't in control. The man who had built his life on lies now had no escape. The realization hit him hard. His charm and wit had finally met their match in the collective determination of the women he had wronged. As the group left the station that night, they felt a renewed sense of strength. They weren't just victims anymore. They were fighters, united by a shared purpose. Their ordeal wasn't over, but they were determined to see it through, no matter how long it took. Timi's trial quickly became a spectacle, attracting significant media attention. Naomi's expose had gone viral, with headlines like "The Charming Predator: How One Man Conned Multiple Women" splashed across news platforms. The courtroom was packed with reporters, lawyers, and spectators curious to see how the case would unfold. For Timi, the attention he had once thrived on had turned into a nightmare. Jennifer, Amaka, Naomi, and other victims took the stand one by one, recounting their experiences in painstaking detail. Each story followed the same pattern: Timi's charm, his too-good-to-be-true promises, the sudden financial demands, and his ultimate disappearance. The women's testimonies were emotional, bringing tears to the eyes of some attendees. Amaka, in particular, spoke with anger and determination. "He didn't just steal my money," she said. "He made me doubt myself and my ability to trust." The prosecutor presented the mountain of evidence the women had gathered, from bank statements to recorded conversations. Timi's lawyer attempted to discredit the witnesses, suggesting they had been willing participants or that they were exaggerating their losses. But the consistency of their stories, paired with the irrefutable evidence, made it clear this was no misunderstanding. Naomi's investigative work became a centerpiece of the trial. Her detailed documentation of Timi's schemes, coupled with her undercover interaction with him, painted a chilling picture of a calculated predator. Timi Oleitan is not just a con man, the prosecutor argued in his closing statement. He is a manipulator who preyed on the emotions and trust of his victims for personal gain. He deserves to be held accountable. Timi, for his part, maintained his innocence. He claimed the relationships were genuine and that any financial transactions were mutual agreements. "I never forced anyone to do anything," he said, trying to play the victim. But his charm, which had once been his greatest weapon, failed him in the face of overwhelming evidence. The judge, after weeks of deliberation, delivered a scathing verdict. Timi was found guilty on multiple counts of fraud, deception, and emotional exploitation. He was sentenced to 15 years in prison, with no possibility of parole for the first 10 years. The courtroom erupted in applause, and for the first time the women felt a sense of closure. As Timi was led away in handcuffs, his once proud demeanor was replaced by defeat. Naomi, Jennifer, Amaka, and the others watched him go, their hearts heavy but relieved. Justice had been served, but their journey wasn't over yet. They had reclaimed their voices, and now they were ready to use them to make a difference. With Timi behind bars, life began to shift for the women he had deceived. For years they had been weighed down by shame, heartbreak, and financial losses, but now a new sense of purpose united them. Jennifer, Amaka, Naomi, and the others decided their experiences wouldn't be just another story of victimization. They wanted to turn their pain into power. Naomi spearheaded the initiative. She proposed starting a foundation to support victims of emotional and financial scams. "We've been through this, and we know how isolating it can feel," she told the group during one of their meetings. "Let's create a space where women can heal, learn, and protect themselves from predators like Timi." The group embraced the idea, and within months, the Resilience Initiative was born. The foundation offered counseling, legal aid, and financial literacy workshops. Women shared their stories, empowering others to recognize red flags and avoid falling into similar traps. Jennifer, who had always been passionate about community building, became the face of their outreach program. Amaka used her expertise in fashion to design a fundraising line of clothing, donating all proceeds to the foundation. Naomi, meanwhile, continued to use her platform as a journalist to shed light on the issue. She wrote follow-up articles, conducted interviews, and even partnered with law enforcement to develop campaigns aimed at combating relationship fraud. Her work not only brought awareness, but also inspired other victims to come forward and seek justice. The women's efforts didn't go unnoticed. Media outlets covered their journey, calling them the Survivor's Circle. Their story became a beacon of hope for others, showing that even the darkest experiences could lead to profound change. They received messages from women across Nigeria and beyond, thanking them for their bravery and determination. As for Timi, life in prison was a far cry from the luxury and control he had once enjoyed. His days were marked by solitude and reflection. The letters he occasionally sent to Naomi, pleading for forgiveness, went unanswered. The women had moved on, refusing to give him the satisfaction of their attention. 1 year after Timi's conviction, the group hosted their first annual Empowerment Summit in Lagos. The event was a resounding success, bringing together survivors, advocates, and policymakers. Jennifer stood on the stage, addressing a packed audience. "We've all been through pain, but we're here to say that our pain doesn't define us. We've turned it into strength, and together, we're unstoppable." As the crowd erupted in applause, Naomi, Amaka, and the others looked at one another, their hearts filled with pride. They had taken back their power, and in doing so, they had changed countless lives. Timi's actions had brought them together in pain, but their resilience had transformed that pain into purpose. The chapter of heartbreak was over. This was the beginning of something greater, a movement built on unity, strength, and hope. We've come to the end of this story. Please subscribe to my channel to support me. Thank you.